All right, welcome back to another video right here on Free Will Photos. Today, we're going to be working inside of the DxO software. And the reason for that is I really enjoy the ecosystem that DxO has available. Now, if you're interested in picking up DxO software, they are having a sale up to 50% off, and you can save an additional 5% by using the coupon code that you see on the screen now. Let's go ahead and get into the edit. First thing that I want to do is start working with the light because that's just my standard workflow. I always like to work with the light in the image. Now, here's what the image looks like coming straight out of camera. And here's what it looks like with the preset that I have applied inside of DxO PhotoLab. So first thing that I'll probably do here, I want this to be a little bit more of a contrasty image. So I'm going to come down to contrast and I'm just going to increase the overall contrast a bit here. And I like what it's doing there. And then we'll even increase some of the fine contrast. And that's just going to help with making those really, really fine details a little bit more crisp. So if I turn it off, and then if I turn it back on, you can see how it just brings a little bit of punch into the image. Now, another way that you can work with contrast that is specific to DxO is using the DxO Clear View Plus. This is almost like a dehaze slider. And since this was shot on an overcast day, by increasing this, I'm going to really increase the punch of that contrast. Now, the reason I want to do this is I think that, this is one of those street photos of a candid moment of this lady looking down the street. And this is actually another photographer's hands as I was on a photo walk. And this is his camera up here. And so I just was able to, split second capture this one moment. And I thought it was pretty cool. And it's one of my favorite photos to kind of look at from time to time. With that being said, I think that this looks pretty good as far as the light is modified. Now, I didn't do much to this image, and that's why I enjoy working with DxO. If I want to get something done quickly, DxO really does allow me to do that because it renders the raw image well, and then I don't have much that I have to tweak. I just need to say, okay, well, how do I want to stylize it? Now, I want to start working with the colors because I think her skin is a little too red. His hands are really red. So let's jump over to the color tab here and we'll just drop right down to the HSL because that's where I'm going to really start working with this. Now, again, there's too much red in the image. So I'm just going to click on the red channel. And as some of you may have guessed it, I'm just going to pull down on the saturation here. So pulling that back helps recover some of that red information. And to me, that's all that this image really needed. I could go a little bit further if I wanted to really accentuate the blue in our jeans and the blue-gray that's happening around here. But I'm not overly concerned about that. And I'll probably play around with some more colors later when I jump into Nik Color Effects. So I'm going to leave this as is. And I think it looks pretty good. Now, let me zoom in 1:1 here. You'll notice that there's a lot of grain in the image. And that's because I did shoot this at 1250 ISO or 1250 ISO. And I actually like the way that this looks on the image. You may not like all of that grain. So there is denoising capabilities built into PhotoLab, and that's on this little details tab here. And if I wanted to, I can come down to Deep Prime XD XD2S. The names aren't really as important as much as what it does. And that's the best denoising model that's built into PhotoLab 9. So if I turn on this little loop view, I can get a preview of what it looks like when that noise is removed. So I'm going to move it over here on this little light post. And you can see how it just smooths everything out. It's really, really good. And of course, you could also send this into Pure Raw 5 if you have that. But the denoising capability that's built into DxO is actually really good. right out of the box. So I'll leave that alone. We'll go ahead and bring this back to fit. And I think we're ready to actually start stylizing the image. Now, one of the things about working inside of DxO is there are some effects that you can apply if you have the film pack and things of that sort, or really just the film pack. You get some of these features over here, but today I don't really want to work with film pack. I want to work with the color effects, which is one of the more premier Nik collection tools. So if you have DxO software, you will need to have the Nik collection to follow along with this portion of the tutorial, but that's okay. If you don't, just, enjoy it. And if you want to save some money when you pick it up, then you can use the coupon code that's down in the description box. So now that I have my base image ready to go, I want to jump into Nik color effects. In order for me to do that, I have a second window here where I keep all of my images, and I have Nik collection as a selector option right here. Now for yours, it may look a little bit different, but when I work with DxO software, this is how I prefer to do it, having this second window here. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on Nik collection, and then I get this pop-up window. Now I'm using the version 8 of the Nik collection, but of course you could use any version that you have available to you. So I'm going to go with Nik 8 color effects. And that's going to render this image as a TIFF file and then send it into Nik collection and open it up. So we'll jump back when it opens up. Okay, so here we are inside of Nik Color Effects 8, and you can see we have our modified image, and I have the before and after slider that's pulled up here. Let me just turn that off. And I did actually end up applying the denoise, and that was just because I forgot to uncheck it. So not quite what I wanted, but that's okay. I'm going to keep working with it. So we'll come back to full screen. And now, if you're not familiar with how Nik Color Effects works, that's okay. I'll go through it very briefly, but if you have questions, leave it in the comment section and I'll do my best to answer them. So over on the left side, we have a series of categories, presets, filters that you can apply to your image. Now the categories really just break down the filters. So as I click on these, you can see how those filters kind of just change. And these two don't really have anything in there. But if I wanted just the basic adjustments, I can use that category. Or if I wanted all of my personal ones, which I don't have any in there, but I usually just leave it on all Nik and I don't worry about it. So we can minimize the category section so it's not confusing. Now, of course, you have access to presets, and my recommendation whenever you start working with the new software, use presets because it helps you learn how the manufacturer is telling you this program works, right? Or at least possibilities that you may not figure out on your own immediately. So it's really easy. I'm not going to insult anyone's intelligence. You just click on a preset and you go. Now, every time you click a preset, it's going to apply some of these filters over on the far right side here. And so if you want to see what a filter actually does, this is how you can unpack it. All right. Now, for me in this particular image, because I kind of want to work quickly today, I am going to use a preset. I normally don't use a preset, but today I wanted to go with something, again, that was in the grungy kind of category, even though that's a little bit softer. Let's go with Super Punch. I think that was, yeah, Super Punch is a nice one here. And I like the way that this particular look comes across on the image. So if I turn on the little before and after slider, this is what we came in to Nik Color Effects with. And this is what we would be leaving Nik Color Effects with if I were to leave this as is, which I think that this fits the image well. Now, I'm going to go ahead and make that full screen for the actual effect there. So now let's take a quick look at what filters are applied with this particular preset for Super Punch. Starting off at the top, we have a bleach bypass, which if you're not familiar with bleach bypass, don't worry about it. It does help with a little bit of that grunge look. So if I turn it off, you can see things are a little softer. And then if I turn it on, it kind of desaturates the image, makes the image a little bit more contrasty. And I really do like what the bleach bypass is doing. We'll click the bleach bypass to minimize it, come over to the contrast. And again, the way that this look is really coming together is with all of this extra punch. Now, if you don't like the way a particular look is on the image, what you can do is come down to the opacity slider, especially if you think it's too strong, and then you can just pull down on the opacity slider until it gets to something that you appreciate. Now, for me, I think this image, 100% of the contrast only works well, and so I'm going to leave that. And then the last thing is Pro Contrast. So there's 3 filters in this particular preset that are specific to just applying contrast. So we'll come over here and take a look at what it's doing. If I turn it off, it's actually really hard to tell what it's doing. Yeah, it's like right around the edges there. And so it's probably not going to come through on YouTube. So for that matter, I'll just leave it turned off because it doesn't really do much of anything for today's tutorial. So we'll take a look at one more before and after. So this is what it looks like with everything. And this is what it looks like when we came into Nik Color Effects. And then this is what it looks like after. Now, when you're done with all of your edits, which I think I'm done with all of my edits, you can come down here to the bottom right and you can click Apply. And what that's going to do is save all of this into the TIFF file that was created. Now, in my window here, I have all of my raw files filtered out. So if I come down here, or up here, I should say, to this filter, and I uncheck raw images, it's going to start showing me all of those JPEGs. And then if I scroll down, I should have a TIFF file. It's probably at the very bottom. If it's not next to the original, there it is. It's right here next to the original. Now I'm going to pull this over to my second monitor. So that way we can take a look at the TIFF file here inside of PhotoLab. Now, once the file comes back into PhotoLab, you have access to all of the adjustments that you had earlier. So in this case, because I ended up getting rid of that film grain, or at least the digital noise, maybe I want to reapply that film grain. So in the Effects tab, I can come over here to Effects, turn on the grain again, and then I can change this to, let's go with color positive, and I can change this to apply a particular film grain. So maybe I want to go with a 400 speed or 400 box speed. So we'll go like so. And then you can increase the intensity. So that way it actually shows up on YouTube, but you can see it kind of in the hands here for sure. So if I turn off the grain and then turn it back on, you can see it just kind of pulls the image together, in my personal opinion. And then the last thing that I could probably do here is, I think that this area on the far left is just a little too bright, and I didn't notice that earlier, maybe after all of the processing. So if I come to the far right of PhotoLab here, you can get access to some local adjustments. Now, these local adjustments work a little bit differently than a typical editor. With the line adjustment tool here, this is like your gradient. And so I can pull this in, and this one probably works the most similar out of all of the tools. And then I'll just go ahead and pull down on my exposure. And when I say most similar, like similar to other programs. And I think that that looks pretty good. Now, with PhotoLab 9, we can combine masks, and this is new inside of PhotoLab 9, meaning that in the past, if I wanted to darken down the left side using the exact same exposure value, I would have had to create a different mask. But now what I can do is click this plus icon, and it's going to create a sub mask. And then if I click and drag over here, I've now added to this mask the main mask. So if I hover over this, you can see I now have two of those adjustments. And I think that a lot of photo editing programs are going to this model of local adjustment, which is really great for the users. Like, we really do live in a great time for photo editing software and the capabilities that we have. So I'll just darken this down a little bit more, kind of like a vignette, if you will, and I'll hit close because I don't want to actually apply a vignette to this image. I just wanted to get rid of some of that negative space or the bright area on the left side, and then of course the right side. So it's directing the attention right into our primary subject here. And so I think we are done with this photo. If you found value in today's content, smash the like button and consider subscribing if you want to see more. Now, if you want to pick up DxO software, they are having a sale from now until the 2nd of December, 2025. If you're a new customer, you can save an extra 5% using the coupon code that's coming up on screen now. And of course, if you are upgrading from an older version of DxO software, they do have a discounted price that's available for you as well. If you got questions, leave it in the comment section below. And until next time, I want you to stay inspired and keep creating. Peace.